Well, hey, Sherpas. Tommy and I are here with Chandler Boyce, the church marketing consultant, or as he likes to be known as, the patron saint of SEO. And that is a awesome title for a guy who is really just sanctifying, so to speak, the kind of communication opportunities that have always, yes, that have always
That's
existed
right.
in our church, and for the church to use. I'm thinking about how when our movement started, it was using the Roman roads and passing letters through their postal system, which was pretty effective for that day. And
Yeah.
then 500 years ago, it was the printing press, and boy, what did that do to help with communication? And now, in a digital world, we have guys like Chandler Boyce to learn from and to glean from about how we can leverage these tools to really expand the influence of Jesus. So, Chandler, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here. Glad to be here. Honored. Look forward to hanging out, talking, learning, maybe stirring some feathers. I don't know. We'll see.
Love it. Love it. So I would love to know, Chandler, because I got a hold of you on social media and we started chatting and figured out we could kind of figure out how to get our audiences together because you
Yeah.
do a lot to get people to the building in a lot of ways and to the community. And our community gets them further into the community and all the way. And
Yeah.
so it's just that perfect handoff. And I would love to know when you encounter churches that are like, I'm going to say like your ideal client, but people who really get it, how would you describe the church or the pastor or the person on staff or the church culture that really gets this idea of using social media? I mean, SEO, which we got to define that for everybody anyway, because I know it's not a common term for this crowd,
No,
but
sure.
all of that, Google reviews, all these
For
things,
sure.
the digital mindset, like describe that ideal digital mindset and what that looks like in a church and why it matters.
Yeah. I would say, when I'm reaching out to people or if they're reaching out to me, I usually have a form that they fill out. And one of the questions I ask them like, different questions. And one of the questions I have that they can select is I want to reach everyone in my community. And the people that click that get on a call, usually within a few minutes, I can tell like we're going to work really well together because they're willing to do whatever it takes to reach as many people possible.
Yeah.
So it's that mindset of like if there's something that I can do as a church that we can do as a church to reach more people, engage more people, communicate with more people, keep people engaged, keep people in our churches, or bring
Mhm.
people to our churches. They just it's like at all costs. It's the
Mhm.
you know I'll do anything short of sin to get people in the
Mhm.
church, right? It's the man. Let's utilize everything. So having those conversations, like for instance, I find a lot of church planners, they're in that, they're, whether it's a little bit
Yeah.
of faith, a little bit of desperation, they're like, hey, I got to do everything I can to grow this thing and build this thing. So I'm gonna put in the time and the money to to do these things. And
Mhm.
so you have a lot of that, and then I'll definitely say a lot of millennials. Usually, it's going to be a few Gen Xers, but mostly I feel like in the church world, it's either the millennial pastors or it's the millennial communications director, marketing director, the youth pastor slash media guy, which in the church world everybody's got four roles, so you
Yeah.
never know. It's always, and most of the time it's in depending on the size of the church, it's definitely someone's kind of other role. But they get it. They want to figure out, how do we create content that actually gets more than three likes on our Facebook and
Mhm.
Instagram. Or it's, hey, I'm trying to, I want to figure out, we want to set up these ads. We want to, whatever it may be. But it's definitely people that they have that, like, we want to do it all mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to that content and who's creating it and all of that, but when it comes down to it, it feels like most times you get you get on a church's social media and it's like just the most boring parts of the announcements, and that's all they're putting there, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the most engaging, and that's the 3 likes normally. So what's the main filter? Like, what are you trying to accomplish on social media in a way that, like, and do you have to choose between finding people outside the church and serving the people that are already following the church because they're a part of the church? Am I like nurturing my community
Yeah.
midweek, or am I reaching people outside the community? Do I have to choose? And like, what are some of the lanes there, and what do you do for all that? What does the content look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that in my, when I'm working with churches and then in my program that I have, I just talk about if you create content that's valuable, it's going to speak to people. So if you're always adding value, whether it's social media, it's emails, YouTube, blogs, devotionals, whatever content that you're putting out, if you're telling great stories, if you're adding value and you're speaking and trying to help people with their problems and their needs and what
Yeah.
they're struggling with and what they're dealing with, if you help people, they're gonna engage and you're gonna get better engagement. And so I think sometimes churches, whether it's lack of resources, a strategy, the team, whatever it is, we don't fully embrace how we can actually use these platforms to help people and talk about real
Yeah.
issues. And I'm not saying we have to talk about like hot topics, or there's certain topics that need to be kept in certain settings. But
Hmm.
if you create content that just adds value and is helpful, or it's encouraging, it's inspiring, it's funny. I mean, more churches, if you just would do funny stuff.
Right.
We all love memes. I mean, heck, most of the time,
Yeah.
my best, my best posts are the ones that are just something stupid. Like
Yeah. Totally.
I just did a post on like the worst pastor appreciation gifts.
I
And
saw that.
I
It
mean,
was
I had
bad.
people blown, like, I mean, it just
Yeah.
people commenting and laughing and telling stories and
Uh-huh.
sending me the stuff that they've received. And it was, but
Yeah.
and that didn't even, honestly, that was actually an accident. It was somebody had made a joke about something. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to ride this one out. And so yeah, we gotta add value and not just use social media as a billboard.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is what it sounds like you're saying, and I've seen this a lot in email promo specifically. That was one of my main focuses for a long time in trying to get people to come to stuff. I would invite them to stuff and it wouldn't work. But then
Mm,
I would add value and tell them that there was more value waiting at the
yep.
thing.
Yep.
And they would say, oh, yeah, well, of course I would go to that thing because
Exactly.
that was helpful. So proving that you're helpful is a better invitation than an invitation is. And you're not
For
desperately
sure.
trying to go get somebody because then they go, no thanks. I don't know. Why would I say yes to that? I have no trust with you at all. And so really it's daily trust deposits in that way,
I mean
which is
that goes the
also,
same.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. And I was gonna say that goes the same way for even for announcements on Sundays.
totally.
Like we're
Yes.
not
Yeah.
you don't need to give announcements. You just need to tell stories and then invite people to come along that story. Hey,
Yeah.
don't, it's not, hey, join a small group. It's tell a story, like I always use the instance, anytime my wife or I talk about small groups, we talk about how we met, because we met in a small group. And then, we'll make a joke like, hey, if you're single, join a small group. Or, hey,
Not
we
wrong.
don't just tell people to give, tell them what giving has done in somebody's
Yeah.
life or in something's life. And then say, hey, if you want to be a part of what God's doing in this church and you want to see God use you, because we're all selfish and we're all somewhat narcissistic, especially pastors, let's be honest. And so you got to talk to people and how is it going to benefit them.
Yeah.
And when you do that at whatever level, whether it's social media, emails, or announcements, you're gonna be able to better engage and get people to that next step.
Yeah. Well, I think that this conversation about reaching outside of the church with these methods is so helpful because it's all exactly the same as everything that we talk about for moving somebody from a guest to a fully connected serving member.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all the same stuff. It's just for those people out there. But that weird divide between discipleship and evangelism, that's fake anyway, because it's all discipleship. It's all learning how to follow Jesus. It's just they're not at the they haven't been introduced to the church yet. That's
Yep.
okay. It's still part of
Yep.
discipleship. It's just an earlier
Yep.
phase.
It's all
And
it's all
so,
baseball, but they haven't gotten to first base yet. But
yeah,
it's still part of the
absolutely.
game. It's still part of the game. And
Yep.
Yeah,
you
and
know what? Now I have to confess here is that one of the reasons that I am so about assimilation, so about bringing people into community, connecting them if they're new, is because at my heart I am a spiritual formation guy. I am
Mm.
at my heart to make a follower of Jesus and
Yeah.
watch them become fully devoted and loving. So I guess when we talk about this digital stuff, you said something earlier that I have heard before, and I think it's a great challenge that we want to do anything short of sin to get people to church, right? People have said that.
Correct.
As a spiritual formation guy, part of me wants to ask the question, why don't we as the church, as Christians and as leaders try to do everything but sin to get our church out to people?
Mm.
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Is how do we get, we're always about trying to get them to our address.
Yep.
What can we do and how can we use digital marketing
That's a
to
good
get
question.
people out to their address and
yeah,
begin that journey, like Jesus did by walking down the street and seeing somebody who's blind who's crying out to him, or just seeing somebody in need and he just asks, do you want to be healed? Or
Mm.
how does digital marketing create two-way traffic, both to the church and from the church to
yeah.
those out in the community? Wondering what your
That's
thoughts are
good.
on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think for those churches that are creating content and they're trying to solve people's problems, I think that these platforms can be utilized. I think that even utilizing tools like courses where you can assimilate people in your church a little bit faster, where you're not they don't necessarily have to come to an event or come to another night, but they can. I think one that you can disciple them slash assimilate them and provide resources. I've got a few church planners that I'm working with, and I'm like, listen, right now, as while you're not preaching every Sunday, man, start building out content so that way you can onboard leaders, you can onboard people who are going to serve on your team. You can have content for when someone comes in and gets saved, and hey, here's some resources that you can kind of watch, and some reading guides, prayer guides that you can follow to help you on your journey. So you're
Mm.
not just relying on a Sunday message to be your anchor for the week. And then I think that depending on what your church has to offer is, in the ministries and different things, is again, it's speaking to the problems. What are the things, what are the things that we all struggle with, right? Money, relationships, um, you know, anxiety, pain.
Emotional health.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Speaking to those things is, you're gonna be able to reach more people. I had, there's a pastor, a church, I forget what it's called. Um, and the pastor wrote a book about parenting, but they started doing these parent nights out, and they were having these events where they were basically kind of advertising it or communicating like, this is, how to raise your parents in today's culture and climate. And what they
Mm.
saw is they started seeing people they were atheists, they weren't believers, and they were showing up
Mm.
saying, listen, I don't really believe in this Jesus Christian religion stuff, but I want my kids to, like, I want to be a good parent and I want to raise good kids. So I don't, we don't have anything else around us. So we're just going to show up and see what happens. And so it's funny how parents, parents will do a lot of things for their kids. So when you find those pain points and you start speaking to them, I think you can, like you said, we can go out to people and be able to reach them, speak to them, and encourage them before they ever show up on a Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, what a day this is to, I don't know how long it's been that we could do this. Has it been 5, 7 years? I don't know. But there's a person, a gal who really doesn't have much of a church background, or she's from New Orleans. She's in her 20s. She's gotten in close relationship with our family. But one of the pain points in her life has to do with relationships. And we just did a relationship series that blew my doors off. I mean, it just blew
Yeah.
my doors off. The topics it covered, and it was a series about I think it was a 6 week series, and three of them were right in pain points that she lived in.
Mm,
How easy it was to drop a link to the videos, to those
yeah.
messages, and send those to her, and have her actually show up without our invitation to church because
Yep.
of
Yep.
something digital I sent her.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
it's an amazing day.
Well, it
Yep.
really is all about the delivery method when it comes down to it. Because if you had all the same great ideas and you handed her a 400-page book, she wouldn't read it, you know? But you handed her something that she could just put into her life that was normal, that she's already used to. Like when we modify the method in that way, then we actually can speak to the culture in a way that they're paying attention to. And now we can do things not just in a will you come to church for an hour and a half and hear this wonderful life-changing thing, or will you even just listen to this 40-minute message with all the
Yeah.
intro and the this and the that. But with social, it's like, how do I grab that message, split it up into bite-sized things, so Monday they remember, Tuesday they remember, Wednesday
Yep.
they remember, and they like, that's an assimilation strategy. Also just keeping me connected to the idea, to the
Yeah.
community. Maybe I'm commenting, maybe we're having a conversation, and it just makes me feel a part of the tribe. It's not real in-person life-giving connection with other people, but it's connection to the tribe, and
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference because it really does matter.
Our lead guy, Gene Apple, is just outrageously gifted in speaking to people outside the church, which in Southern California is the name of the game. And he's just converted his teaching into 5 minute podcasts, you know? And those are so easy to forward to
Mhm.
somebody you think of somebody. So our church members can use that to create the opposite traffic flow sometimes. And it's not about come to church or whatever. It's like here's something that I think, like you said, Chandler, that has value to them. Like has some real points of encouragement or help for them.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that's a great point because I've said this a lot to a lot of pastors that if if more pastors will look in themselves, especially those that want to communicate, and they want to lean into it, but if they'll start looking at themselves as not just pastors but as like content creators,
hmm
and put in a little extra time to put out content and to post videos and be engaging. The truth is that you're going to reach more people Monday through Saturday on social media than you will probably ever reach on a Sunday alone. And
Mhm.
so if you lean into it where, uh, 10, 15, probably more than that year. Well, yeah, probably more like 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, really the really only avenues is you had to write a book, and
Yeah.
then that was expensive. And then
Mhm.
now, I mean, now you can write a book for almost nothing up front, and you can slap it on Amazon, and then and you can get blogs out to people and run ads. And so those churches and pastors who lean into the content creation side, yeah, you're able to engage people Monday through Saturday, and reach people and reach way more people.
Yeah.
A crazy story, but I have a really good friend. He's a pastor in Oklahoma City, and last year he just was like, you know what, I'm just going to start posting content. And you started posting 2 to 3 times a week. And he had like on Instagram, he had like 2,000 followers. And then he, had to kind of play with it and figure some stuff out. And he started realizing that people really engaged with topics on how to pray, how to read the Bible, how to study the Bible. And so he just started creating videos and content every day on the same subject in very basic stuff. I'm talking, this is low level. This is not theology. He was like my audience because he was a youth pastor. He's like, I want to teach my kids how to do this. And long story short, he's got over 100,000 followers now, all organically.
Yeah.
So he's reaching millions of people.
Yeah.
Like he's reaching more people than most pastors will ever reach in their lifetime simply because he was just posting on social media.
When really focusing, I think social media forces you to communicate so effectively because you have no time at all to hook them.
Yep.
And you only have 40 seconds at the most, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're really great, you're holding people's attention for 90 seconds. Congratulations. But that's really challenging to do anything in that amount of time. And so I think adapting to that new format, it can be really daunting for a lot of us. And
it is.
to be uncomfortable, then it'll be okay.
It's like anything. It takes a while to figure it out. And I went through that the first this year, and I finally had to tell myself, okay, I'm going to post every day for 3 months, no matter what. And there was nights when it was 10 o'clock and I was like, oh, like, what am I, trying to figure out something to post. But what it did is it forced me to figure out a process and a way to come up with content. And I'm still trying to figure that out. But once you kind of get your rhythm, it actually becomes, it just becomes normal. But I think even for me is once you start doing it, and the first time someone messages you and says, thank you. Hey, thank you so much for the content. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, that right there is worth it all. Like if it's no longer like, man, my post didn't get 100 likes. Honestly, now if one post helps one person, to me, that's worth it. And so
7-8 minutes that it took. Yeah. Or 15. Yeah.
I wonder, Chandler, if you would add to this your own spin ideas, maybe just affirm it or maybe just go, no, that's not the way to do it. But just a mysterious preview for next year is that our Sherpa leaders that are following us are going to hear about some big changes in how I'm doing and redesigning our engagement pathway next year for our church. And I'll be sharing once I have some hard data that makes it worth sharing what we're doing. But one little preview of the notions that we're entertaining in the design phase of this is built on Carey Nieuwhof. I'm going to credit Carey Nieuwhof because I think I got it from him, but it's the idea of communicating things not in a just-in-case fashion, which churches, but in a just-in-time fashion. So just in case is kind of how churches have done their classes. Like we're going to walk you exegetically through our statement of faith. We're going to tell you the history of our church. We're going to tell you all the missionary works we have around the world, just in case you want to know. And we've lost them, 5 minutes in. But the idea, that digital communication gives us the flexibility and the capability I'm seeing to communicate just in time. So like we're taking a lot of our stuff that we might want them to know, but that's not what they want to know yet. And making sure that it's digital, say it's on Vimeo, and that we have Vimeo links to some of these kinds of resources so that our table hosts can then, instead of including it in the experience itself, that they can, in a just-in-time kind of way, as they get to know the people at their table, share a link to something a person who said, I'm not sure if I trust the Bible yet. Well, let me share something with you this week. And they'll digitally share it with them. Or I'm not sure I understand how God can heal somebody who's been through the wounding that I have. And that we have something that they can share rather than bring everybody through what the Bible says about those who are wounded. That I think digital the digital world
That's smart.
is the capability to communicate things that will have a higher impact just in time sometimes instead of just in case. We're just constantly spitting out stuff that makes people numb or deaf to a
Hmm.
lot of content because we're sharing what we want them to know instead of what they want to know.
That's
But
good.
at the end of my sermon, any comment on that kind of approach or any ways to enhance or use that kind of approach in ministry for churches like ours?
No, I mean, I think it's brilliant because, for instance, why, like, you know, a lot of the, for in my context, a lot of the questions that I get asked, a lot of other people are asking these same questions. So why not create the resources and the content so that when someone does ask it, you don't, you can just say, yeah, let me walk you through it a little bit, but here's a resource on that. So, like, for me, almost all the churches I work with, I have, this program I'm going through, but I say, like, some of it I will repeat, but hey, you need to go through this because I've already talked about it. I've already recorded it. There's no point in me wasting my time. You need to be disciplined enough to go through and walk through this. And then if you have questions afterwards, we can have a discussion, or if you need help with something. And so that's why I tell pastors, like, if you're having meetings or you're doing leadership stuff with your staff, or just bring a camera with you. Like, you don't have to have, like, oh, I don't have a camera, I don't have a video guy, listen, get a camera with a tripod, or get your phone and record yourself at staff meetings, and then evergreen that content somewhere, so that way you can pass it along to your other leaders and people can watch it and you can share it. Greg, I think that's absolutely a great idea. But yeah, I think
On the right,
totally on board for it.
yeah, on the right platform too. You just need to go audio. You don't need video half the time. People are just gonna, close it and listen anyway. That's what I do. And so half the time you go with audio if it's the right platform and it makes sense. But we did that once we needed to capture all our values for all our leaders that we were trying to we're building a leadership development pipeline. And the best way we could do it was just record conversations between 3 staff members on each value and have 15-minute podcasts. And it was just a podcast that sat there forever. Lots of things now are going toward, like, limited series podcasts. I did that with a church recently on parenting as an engagement, like a new guest and a new family engagement strategy, to go, hey, let's give them a high value resource that answers the question they're probably asking. How do I raise my kids in all this? Like, how do I do something good for my kids? So let's answer that question highly intentionally right away before they actually have to ask it out loud.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the integration between the digital and the personal, because Chandler, we advocate kind of an assimilation or an engagement pathway or assimilation system that's built around 4 Ps. That you send your guests to one place, drives them to one program, gets them in 2 processes, lands them in 2 placements, a small group of friends, and a ministry, right, team, right?
Yeah.
So in advocating these 4 Ps, what's really kind of easy to miss is there's only 1 P God said that he would use, and it's none of those. It's a person.
Yeah.
He has chosen to use people. And it's only the people at that place, in that program, that are that are running those processes and that live in those placements, that are changing lives. God sent us into the world as people, and as was it Robert Coleman in the Master Plan of Evangelism? He said, "Men are his method." That we look for always a thing, and so the integration of digital and personal, to me, that I could get excited about, and I'm just beginning to think about more, is that as we say give these digital resources to, say, like our table host in our one program, is that instead of just them forwarding a link, maybe it's like forwarding them the link, watch that, and can we be in the cafe next Sunday after this and just talk about, I'd love to know what you thought about it. Or this is a 5-minute thing and we could put, why don't we watch it together? There's ways of integrating digital and personal that allow, that agent of change, which at the end of the day is a person, whether they're behind a camera, like what we are now, or, it's men are the medium, men are the method. And I just get fascinated about thinking about how we can integrate the personal and the digital as well.
No, I think there's definitely hybrids, and I mean, I know there's people doing it, and I know churches doing it, and there's a way to, like I said, there's just a way to. Well, I had this thought earlier, back in Jesus' time, you each community would have a synagogue, and so your synagogue was within walking distance, and so you would, I mean, a lot of people would go to the synagogue, or they could go daily, to you know to and your rabbi was teaching and preaching, and you could ask questions. And this era is really the first time since then that, with the digital space, we can be in front of people, our people, every single day, like listening, communicating, sharing, teaching, influencing. And it takes a little work, but I think once you get those things in place, you really can make an impact on people's lives, and get them further faster in the process, or whatever part of their faith journey that they're on.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if conversations are the goal on social. It's not just likes, views, reach. It's
Yeah.
conversations. Like that's one of the main methods of connecting deeply with people on social is offering all the time. Hey, DM us if you're struggling with this. DM us for a prayer request. DM us for a
Yep.
thing. And then they're writing in, and then poof, you got a captive audience. And whether they attend your church or not, you've got this person that you get to actually have a pastoral care session with. That is money. I mean, that's incredible. And that digital and personal, like, I think it's so important because digital does content delivery really well. And therefore, we can empower more leaders and influencers and friends to not have to worry about getting the words right. They just have to
Yep.
show up, answer some questions, be there, hold their hand, give them a hug. It's like they can do what people do best,
Yep.
and content and teachers can do what teachers do best in a more effective way. And that's why I love Tether so much, and why I think we could have a whole nother conversation about that, because it is the only thing I've seen that marries those two in the digital space. But it really, like, we have to keep moving toward that and using social for that, and empowering more leaders with the right little secret menu. I actually named this, Greg. I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but it's the secret menu system, where it's In and Out. Somebody who's never been to In and Out doesn't need to know about animal style, because they're going to hear it and somebody's going to tell them, and they say, I'm going to go to In-N-Out for the first time. They're like, great. Animal style, if you don't need a bun, it's protein. They're going to tell them the secret menu,
Hmm.
but it's the people on the inside that are empowered with it. But somebody that walks up just goes, oh, I can get a burger here. Yes,
Yep.
you can get a burger here. But as soon as you meet somebody, you get the real stuff. And that's the beauty of it, really. And then it's
Yeah.
all personal, and it's an invite.
Yeah. I actually just took my dad to In and Out for the first time. Had to teach him the In and Out ways.
It's magical. It's a
How do you
magical
do?
moment. And yeah, did
What do
he
you
like
say?
it? Was it
How
was
do
Oh
it
you
yeah, oh
good? Did
yeah.
he
do?
like
He
it?
he like. I mean, yeah, he liked it. He's like, yes, it was good, but
Yeah, I miss it. We get In and Out in Franklin, Tennessee in 2026, and I'm very excited. I'm counting down the days.
Counting the days.
Yeah. Well, I think that was fantastic, and I love this conversation. I love talking about it, and I love that mindset above all else of we will do anything we can, no matter how uncomfortable it is for us, no matter how much we have to learn, no matter how much we have to figure out. We will do everything we can to move people, like move the needle in people's lives from disconnected to connected, to far from God to close to God, to even incapable to capable. Like we can empower,
yeah,
equip, and connect people outside the church, and then keep doing it with these same methods once they get inside too. And I think it's
yeah.
a really powerful conversation. And I'm really thankful for what you're doing with churches on a regular basis, because you're doing a lot of things. So tell us a little bit, tell everybody about what you do exactly, how they can get help from you, work with you, and maybe what are some of the easiest ways to get involved with what you're doing.
Yeah, so I help churches create and implement digital marketing strategies so they can create a bigger front door and reach more people. So everything from consulting. I have a church marketing masterclass where I've got, lead pastors, church planners, communication directors, youth pastors, and I give them all the strategies and solutions and help them figure out how to what matters, what works, what doesn't work, what you need to invest in, where you need to put your time. And I've got some awesome friends that know even more about specific things that speak into those things. But my heart is to come alongside pastors and churches and help them reach more people online and grow their church, and basically magnify the message that the God has given us. And we've got the greatest opportunity to reach literally as many people as we can, because everyone's got a phone and a computer and an iPad, and it's the first time in the history of the world that we can it's limitless on who we can reach. And there's a lot of people out there that need hope, and they need to see a good church. They need to see good messaging. They need to see good preaching. They need to see pastors that are normal and just, they're not like some old white guy in some kind of weird dress with a weird collar.
Yep.
And so it's a love and a passion, and it's an honor to do what I do, because I've been on the other side. I've been on a church staff. I was in full-time ministry for almost 15 years, and I thought I knew, how to, do marketing and how to run ads and SEO and all this stuff. And now that I'm on the other side, I understand the frustration and what churches are dealing with. And so I want to help bring these tools and these strategies to as many life-giving, Jesus-believing churches that I can. So.
Yeah. And I know one of the things you do, you make it really easy to book a strategy call with you and kind of figure out where you'll help them figure out where they're at and what their next steps are, right? That's something they can do from
Absolutely.
your website.
And yeah, absolutely. And listen, if big church, small church, big budget, little budget, there's something for you. I've got, free resources I can share that will help, that most churches just, again, they have no idea on things that actually matter. If anyone's listening, don't hesitate to reach out. Instagram, I'm a real person. I answer my DMs. I answer my phone call, my emails. If I can serve any way possible, just let me know.
Perfect. Well, we'll point them all your way.
Can I throw a little devotional spin on this little moment here?
Absolutely.
Please do.
In Galatians, it says that God sent his son in the fullness of time. That's the phrase. In the fullness of time, God sent his son. And to me, a large part of what that means is at the perfect point in human history, at the fullness of time. At that point, all roads led to Rome. It was the first century internet. They could get mail anywhere over 3 continents in the empire within 5 days. We can't guarantee that now. And the U.S. postal system is built on their methodology because it was that effective.
Yeah.
Wow. And also, societally, they had things called demigods that started bringing where God would actually become one of us. And would bring, and the talk of love and unity because everything, the economy then was going global. And that's why the letters in the New Testament were all about how do we get Jews and Gentiles and people of different kinds to get along, because they're colliding now for the first time instead of living in homogeneous units, right? And then for the first time in history, you had the world spoke 2 languages, their native tongue and Koine Greek. So now there was a language to be written the gospel in that could go on the Roman roads, just get out there, spread in the fullness of time, in a time where people were aching to hear it and needed something to unite them because they were very divided and the economy was interdependent. Well, the first time that's happened since in 2,000 years is now. Roman roads are now the internet and the digital world. Everybody now speaks their own language and English. They're coming out of these tribalisms and realizing that we have to find something to unite us. And over 1 billion, I think 1.2 billion people own a smartphone.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then the rest of them have access. A lot of them have access to internet cafes and other things, or they're using desktop. It's an amazing time to be alive, and I think that the fullness of time has come for this digital for the church to really like when Jesus came the first time, and it turned in literally in 270 years, 1 out of 10 people was a Christ follower in the world in 270 years. Now 1 out of 3 claim the name. And we live in this crazy world where information is that spreadable that quickly. So I just think whether you're a Sherpa leader dealing with connection of new people, or whether you're on staff at a church responsible for reaching those new people, somebody needs to give you a call. So how again do they get a hold of you?
So you could go to you can go to my Instagram. It's at Chandler D Boyce, or my website is www.businesscoop.co. Businesscoop.co. I'll have to, yeah, it's business
We'll send it around, yeah.
co.co. It's about to get revamped, so about to change all that stuff up. But yeah, they can go to my website. They can go to my I'm most active on my Instagram. That's where I do most of my communicating on. So I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thanks for chatting, man. It's
thanks
great
for
to
having me.
connect with you.
It was a blast. I could keep talking about this.
I think we could.
Yeah, Greg, I was even thinking about what you were saying. I mean, now with technology, I mean, technically, you can translate anything into any language.
I was thinking the same thing.
I mean,
yeah.
like you can communicate with anyone because
Right
you have things like Google Translate, and you have software out there that'll do all that for you. So it's
built into the comment section usually.
Yeah, I mean, you got widgets that can turn your website from Spanish to English in a click of a button.
It's crazy.
I constantly use it. I have family from Italy, and I'm constantly, even on Facebook, and on Instagram, I'm hitting the translation button all the time. It's that simple. And there's just no reason not to act on this. There really isn't.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out. I'm sure we'll do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.